There's stories going out, which you can call it a joke, that Museveni of Uganda wants to stay on until the other two countries, Tanzania and Kenya, have the same number of presidents. Some people consider Museveni to be the 7th president. Others consider him to be the 8th president. Those who consider him to be the 8th do consider Milton Obote to be Obote 1 and Obote 2 presidency. So that is how they consider him the 8th. But others combined the two and consider it to have been having 7. The way Museveni is behaving, he seems to be giving that to the truth, because in Tanzania now, Madam Suluma is the 6th president, and going by the Tanzanian way, I think in the next 20 years is when we will have the 8th president. In Kenya, Ruto is the 5th president, and if going by Kenyan style, I think we should wait for 30 years. In short, I would say that both Kenya and Tanzania, I think once you are elected as a president, you just serve 2 terms. It is quite hard for Kenyan and Tanzanian, but the future may change. Uganda got independence, and when Uganda got independence, there were 2 major political parties. There were several, but there were 2 major political parties. There was a political party called Democratic Party, that one of Kiwanuka. And then there was UPC, Uganda People's Congress, of Apollo Milton Obote. But Obote wanted to form a coalition government, and he knew that Uganda, the Baganda tribe, constitutes around 40%. So you cannot make a government without the Baganda. And he wanted to bypass the Democratic Party. So he went for a small party which was for royal family. You see, the Baganda people, they are those who wanted to do away with the Kabaka ship, and then there were those others who wanted Kabaka to be there. So he went for a small party called Kabaka Yeka, which means Kabaka alone, or in Kiswahili, Kabaka peke yake. Then when he went for that party, they formed a coalition and took over power in Kampala. And you may not have noticed, but you see, Kenya was a colony. Actually, Kenya was both a colony and a protectorate. Parts of the coastal region were a protectorate, but the other parts of Kenya were a colony. So Kenya getting independence was from a colonial master. So you find that when we got independence, the first thing was Madaraka Day, where the head of state was represented by a governor. And Madaraka Day, Jomo Kenyatta became the prime minister, answerable to the governor. A governor who was representing the queen. So 6 months later, 1963, Kenya became independent and we had our flag. But just like Jamaica, or as they call it, Jamaica, and Barbados and whatever, these countries are independent, but their head of state is King Charles. So when Kenya acquired independence, we were an independent country, but Queen Elizabeth was our head of state. Then 1 year later, we became a republic. But Uganda was a protectorate. So when it got independence, a protectorate means that it is a country that is being protected. No other foreign country can attack it. If you attack it, it means you have attacked Britain. So there was this indirect rule, and in Kenya it was a direct rule. So when Uganda got independence, that is why they had a ceremonial president who was Kabaka Edward Mutesa. He was the president, and Kabaka Edward Mutesa of the Kabaka Yeka party was the ceremonial president. Then Apollo Milton Obote of Uganda People's Congress was the prime minister. But just like any coalition, Kenyans will remember the NACA coalition of 2002. Any coalition that is meant for only one thing, to get power, but you are ideologically different, that do not stay for long. So in 1966, the Prime Minister, Apollo Milton Obote, used the army military man. You know, Uganda has no navy. It has only the army and the air force. So Milton Obote used the military under Brigadier Idi Amin Dada to chase away the Kabaka, who was the president. So 1966, Kabaka became, Apollo Milton Obote became the second president. He combined the two duties of a president and a prime minister. So Kabaka was a ceremonial president, but Milton Obote became an executive president. Then in 1971, Idi Amin Dada overthrew Obote, and he became the third president. When he overthrew Milton Obote, Amin was a major general. But within a very short time, he became a lieutenant general, he became a full general, and even he granted himself field marshal. But if you see the badges that he was wearing the badges of a full general, but he used to call himself field marshal. Then Amin stayed there for some time. What Amin did, the mistake Amin did, was to attack an area called Kagera region. Now Kagera region is a district that was bounding Tanzania and Uganda. And Kagera region was in Tanzania. We have some tribes or some regions where influence ran across, like Tanzania and Kenya. We have Maasais among others, and then in Kenya, Uganda, we have Luhyas, Samia, both sides, and Tesos. So we have such things, but Kagera had no historical facts with Uganda, but Amin attacked that and renamed it Kagera District of Uganda. That one gave Julius Kabarage Nyerere a chance to invade Tanzania, invade Uganda. When he invaded, he chased away first of all, but before he chased away, they had this program, what we call today TBC, Tanzania Broadcasting Corporation. Those days it used to be called RTD, Radio Tanzania Dar es Salaam. After news, 7 o'clock news, there was a program that they used to call Mazungumzo Baada ya Habari. For elderly Kenyans will remember Weekly Review, which was there at that time. So if you didn't read the Weekly Review in the 80s and 70s and 90s, that is the effect that Mazungumzo Baada ya Habari had in RTD, Radio Tanzania Dar es Salaam. So Nyerere kept on hiking the feelings of the Tanzanians. Then they chased Amin out of Kagera and entered Uganda. As they were pushing him into Uganda, there was an international outcry that Tanzania should withdraw. And then Nyerere said there were two types of forces fighting Amin. there was the Tanzanian People's Defense Forces, and there was the Ugandan refugees. So when they reached the border, the Tanzanian forces stopped, but those fighting Amin were the Ugandan rebels. The reason for Nyerere overthrowing Amin was that Nyerere was very close to Obote and he wanted Obote back. But he had to, installing him immediately would have given him off. So the first person whom they placed there was Lule, Professor Yusuf Lule. Yusuf Lule previously had been the Vice Chancellor of Makerere University. He was a Muganda by tribe. So if you count Kabaka to be the first, Obote to be the second, Idi Amin the third, Lule was the fourth. Then the short time that Lule was the president, he tried to, you know, Paul Ngei once said that becoming an acting president for 90 days is enough. So when he was holding there, he was trying to place their pillars for him to be the president. Nyerere discovered that, and he replaced him with a temporary parliament speaker who was called Geoffrey Binaisa. Geoffrey Binaisa was also a Muganda by tribe. So that one was the fifth. Kabaka 1, Obote 2, Idi Amin 3, Lule 4, Binaisa 5. Binaisa stayed there for some time, and then Nyerere was not comfortable. So Nyerere organized so that this plan of having one person as the president would spoil his chances of being of placing there his person. So he organized with another Muganda by tribe called Paul Mwanga. So Paul Mwanga installed himself as prime minister, and he had 3 gentlemen whom he named the presidency. So whatever decision he made, he used just to call them and they would sign as co-heads of state. These people, even Ugandans don't remember him, or remember them, but they used to put on alternating western ties and safari suits. The difference between safari suit and counter suit is counter suit you don't put anything in, but safari suit you can put in a shirt and a tie, but they almost look alike. So those ones we cannot count. Then Paul Mwanga organized fake elections. When he organized for fake elections, of course, Obote won the elections. When he won the elections, one of the contestants who was, I don't know, number 5 or number 4, Kaguta Yoweri Museveni, refused to recognize those elections, and he went to the bush at a place called Lowero Triangle. He went to Lowero Triangle, and during Obote's second rule, he was overthrown by Brigadier Olara Okello. He was Basilio Olara Okello. Yeah, I'm getting old. He was overthrown by Basilio Olara Okello, who was a brigadier. But since he was the second in the army, there was Major General Tito Okello Lutwa. So Olara Okello took the position of CDF from Tito Okello Lutwa and made Tito Okello Lutwa the president. Then Museveni continued pushing until they came to Nairobi in December 1985. In December 1985 is when they came to Nairobi for peace talks under Moi at KICC. They agreed that Tito Okello Lutwa becomes the president, the chairman of the ruling coalition, and Museveni becomes the vice chairman. When they went back, instead of Museveni going to Kampala to take his position, he went back to Lowero Triangle. He was being asked why he did not go back to Kampala. He said, I am the vice head of state of Uganda, so I can do my work from any place in Uganda. 2 weeks later, early, that is in January 1986, Yoweri Museveni entered Kampala. And from January 1986 to today, Yoweri is still the president of Uganda. So if you have to count Museveni, not Obote, Apollo Milton Obote as president twice, then we say the first president was Kabaka, who was ceremonial. The second one was executive Obote 1. The third was Idi Amin. The fourth was Yusuf Lule. 1, 2, 3, 4. Binaisa, the fifth one. Obote 2, the sixth one. Okello, Tito Okello Lutua. And then Museveni, the eighth one. You have learned a bit about Ugandan presidency.